I never imagined a single conversation could change the entire course of my marriage, but here we are. My name is Daniel, I'm 36, and for the last 10 years I thought my wife, Olivia, and I had something unbreakable. We had our rough patches, of course, arguments over bills, disagreements about vacations, and the occasional clash of pride, but I always believed that beneath it all, there was a foundation that nothing could shake. Or at least that's what I thought. Lately things had been off. Olivia had grown distant, her laughter in the evenings sounded forced, and the touches that used to come effortlessly now felt like obligations. I chalked it up to stress, work pressures, life in general, and I tried to be patient. I thought patience and understanding were enough. But patience isn't love, and understanding isn't a cure for neglect. One night, we were sitting on the couch after dinner, the kind of silence that had started to fill our home more often than conversation. I reached for her hand and she flinched ever so slightly. "I just feel like you're always needing something from me," she said, voice sharp, eyes not meeting mine. "Be a man and stop begging for intimacy." I froze. The words hit me harder than I could have expected. I wanted to laugh, to shake my head, to tell her she was overreacting, but instead I just sat there, letting the sentence sink in. Be a man and stop begging. She wasn't angry, not exactly, she was dismissive, almost cold. And for the first time in years, I realized that the dynamic between us had shifted so subtly, I hadn't noticed until it was too late. For years I had been the one to initiate, to plan, to chase. Every dinner date, every romantic evening, every gentle touch had been my responsibility. And now she was telling me to stop. To simply stop. The challenge in her tone wasn't a request, it was a declaration. And somehow that declaration sparked something inside me I hadn't felt in a long time. The next morning I decided to do exactly that. I stopped initiating. I stopped making the small gestures I thought kept our relationship alive. No flowers, no notes, no surprise lunches. I stopped waiting for her to notice or appreciate. I simply focused on myself. I went to the gym, caught up on work, spent more time with friends. I allowed the house to feel empty in the way she had made it feel empty for me. At first it felt strange, almost wrong. I found myself standing in the kitchen, coffee in hand, debating whether I should text her, whether I should ask if she was okay, whether I should try to fix what had been broken for so long. But then I remembered her words, her dismissal, the edge in her voice, and I let the moment pass. For the first time, I was choosing myself instead of constantly giving her the opportunity to push me away. It didn't take long for her to notice. By midweek, Olivia was asking me questions that felt pointed, testing, almost like she was measuring how much I had changed. "Why aren't you touching me anymore?" she asked one evening, a hint of frustration in her tone. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I looked at her calmly, really looked at her, and said, "I'm giving us space. I'm letting things be what they've been. You wanted me to stop." I did. Her eyes widened, a flicker of shock crossing her face. I had expected anger, maybe guilt, but what came instead was silence. She walked away to the bedroom without another word, and in that silence, I finally felt something I hadn't in months: power. Not the power to control, not the power to make her chase me, but the power to stand by my own boundaries. The days turned into a week. She tried small gestures, touches, attempts at conversation, but I held firm. I listened, I acknowledged, I was present, but I didn't initiate. I didn't beg, I didn't plead, I didn't give her the chance to diminish my needs. And with every day, I could feel the tension building, a pressure she had never allowed herself to release until now. Then came the turning point. One night, we were in the living room, the same place where her words had cut me so deeply. She looked at me, frustration battling with vulnerability, and finally said, "I didn't realize how much you wanted, that you needed me to want you too." I smiled softly, understanding exactly what she meant, and I replied, "I want us to be equal, Olivia. I want us to respect each other's needs, not just mine. I'm not begging anymore because I refuse to feel less for loving more." For the first time in months we talked, not just superficially, not just to smooth over tension, but honestly. She admitted she had been taking me for granted, assuming my love was endless, automatic, and without limits. I admitted I had been compensating too long, allowing my own desires to be minimized in the name of harmony. It wasn't instant reconciliation. It wasn't fireworks or sudden passion. But it was the beginning of balance. For the first time in years, intimacy felt like a choice, not a chore. Respect had returned to the table, and with it, desire. We began to rebuild, cautiously, intentionally, learning that boundaries weren't walls, they were the framework for connection. By the end of the month, things had changed in ways that surprised both of us. We laughed more, argued less, and when we touched, it was because we truly wanted to, not because we expected it. I had stopped begging, and in doing so, I had taught both of us the power of presence, respect, and self-worth. I now realize that sometimes, love isn't enough on its own. Sometimes, respect is what keeps love alive. And sometimes, you have to let go of the ways you've been taking responsibility for everything to remind the other person what it truly means to care.